Hi there. Welcome to Communication with Colleagues, a micro course prepared for UMB employees and provided through the Learning Institute's Badging and Micro Course Digital Badge Program. There are two modules to this course: Understanding, Developing a Listening Mindset, and Being Understood. This module, including this recording and all related materials, is copyright 2025 by the Center for Dispute Resolution at Maryland Carey Law. All rights reserved. For permission to copy, share, adapt, or display this recording or any portion or any related materials, please contact CDRM at cdram@law.umaryland.edu. Both modules will focus on face-to-face communication with colleagues. In other words, how we communicate at work or school when we're physically present with others. We'll also touch on face-to-face communication in a virtual environment like Zoom. Please recognize that these modules offer just a brief introduction to the skills of effective interpersonal communication, but we hope that by completing this course and achieving your badge, you're well on your way to becoming an effective communicator. Understanding and being understood, the very essence of human communication. Ralph Nichols, a pioneer in the field of listening and listening research, once said that the most basic of all human needs is the need to understand and be understood. Let me start you with a story, though. My friend Tom, he was a skilled bricklayer, but a terrible listener. His friends would say that his head was in the clouds, but he was just thinking about his hobby, creating fly fishing lures, and that occupied his mind. Also, he liked to write poetry in his head. On the job, he often missed instructions, though, and it caused havoc on construction sites and misunderstandings with his coworkers. One day, his boss yelled at him to build a garden wall 5 bricks high, and then the boss stomped off to another site in frustration. Tom heard 5 feet high instead, and that wall soared. It was well built, but it was not what the client had asked or paid for. It would have blocked all the afternoon sun to the client's garden. Tom's error cost the company money and nearly cost Tom his job, but he finally had to acknowledge that he had a problem. Determined to change, he took a communication course at a local community college, and slowly his listening improved, and soon his terrific wall building skills were matched by terrific listening. He earned respect 1 brick at a time, proving that even the most reluctant learners can mend their ways. You are probably a little like Tom, not because you mistakenly build 5 feet walls, but because you've come to recognize the importance of communication in the workplace. So what is communication? Communication is simply the act of sending and receiving information. What's our goal in communicating? Usually, we hope to create a common or shared understanding with others about a topic or an idea, or we're trying to make new meaning with others. The communication topic or idea can be anything from the mundane, like a colleague's phone call asking you to meet them in the lobby for lunch, or to highly complex, such as a research paper explaining the results of a drug study. Communication, as we're talking about it, doesn't mean that everyone understands and reaches agreement about an issue, although that can happen. It's just the sending and receiving of information. I have an abundance of communication approaches available to me at work. I can meet face-to-face. I can speak on the phone. I can hold a virtual meeting. I can send emails. I can send chats or texts. I can write memos, white papers, reports. I can draft documents or create web pages. And the approach I choose impacts how the receiver interprets the message. As I said, in this micro course, we'll focus on face-to-face workplace communication, but we have to acknowledge that face-to-face approach isn't our only or always even the best workplace communication strategy. This is a basic communication loop. We call it a loop because communication is an ongoing cycle. How we have communicated in the past influences how we send and interpret in the future. So let's look at the top. I send a message, and that message is filtered through whatever medium I'm using. A medium is a method I choose for my message, such as a phone call versus a text. For example, when I'm speaking with someone face to face, I'm sending a lot of information. Experts call face-to-face oral communication a rich form of media because information is provided through multiple senses. You can hear my words, the volume and tone of my voice, my inflection, and the pace of my speech. You can see my facial expression, my body language, my attentiveness. Each of those elements conveys additional meaning to the message I'm offering. In fact, research shows that when we communicate about our feelings and attitudes, the mere words I use are a minor component of the message, less than 10%. Okay, so I've sent you a message. You, as the recipient of the message, interpret what I've communicated, and you offer a response. Even silence is a response because that action or inaction conveys meaning, and your response is filtered through the medium you've chosen. And then I interpret your message. I take it in and evaluate it, what you've communicated, and then that loop starts all over again. If my goal is to receive and understand your message, how do I do that best? How do I improve my understanding? In face-to-face communication, our greatest tool for understanding is listening, and that's the tool that we'll focus on today. We are used to listening in settings with minimal two-way communications. It's not expected to be interactive. Those settings are like lectures, speeches, or webinars. Listening well in those places involves paying attention, but the speaker isn't waiting or looking for your response. That's not the case when we listen in interaction. We're two-way communication. The give and take of a conversation is expected. This includes casual conversations like, how was your weekend, that we can have when we enter our office, or intense conversations like a union negotiation or a performance review, or routine but significant workplace interactions like a committee meeting or a department meeting. In these two-way conversations, we have obligations as listeners, and our participation is required. Let's talk about the importance and the difficulty in listening. Presumably at work, we listen because we want to learn or understand what's being told to us by our colleagues, but our listening skills may not be as developed as we'd like them to be. In a typical business day, research shows that we spend far more time listening than we do talking, writing, or reading, but about 45% of our time is spent listening, and for all that time we spend, we aren't very effective at it. Humans generally listen at a 25% comprehension rate. So let's check in on your listening skills. Take the first quiz before proceeding to the next lecture.